presentation. Here we go. We have Lourdes, welcome, and Bari, who's a chaplain in Connecticut. Nice to have you with us. Thomas is a patient liaison at Putnam Hospital. We have a wonderful social worker, Leanna. Hi, Diana. Hi, Amy. Dr. B, emergency medicine, who's feeling good. That's what I like to hear. If you're feeling good, we're going to feel even better at the end of our time together today. If you're just joining us, comment in the chat. Let me know your name and let me know where you're joining us from. We have Maria, Ridgefield, Connecticut support group leader. Welcome, thanks for being here. Another Maria in the finance department at New Vans Health. So nice to have you with us. We're going to wait a couple minutes to get started, let everyone find their way into our Zoom hangout. Hi, Amy, Dawn, and Gary, and Lisa. Thanks for taking the time to be here today.
Okay, I think maybe we'll get started, Nick.
Let's do it.
Let's start. People can continue to join us. Well, welcome everybody, and thank you so much for taking the time to be here. I'm Peggy O'Shea, and I'm the clinical coordinator of the complementary medicine program here at Danbury Hospital. On behalf of the Departments of Spiritual Care, the Goldstone Caregiver Center, and the Department of Complementary Medicine, we are delighted to bring to you this presentation by Nick Ortner of the Tapping Solution. Just a wee bit of history. In 2019, I approached Mr. Nick Ortner, and I asked if he would consider doing a program here at Danbury Hospital for our employees so he could demonstrate how tapping might help them in dealing with some of their many life stressors. Being the generous person he is, he agreed to do a presentation, and it was scheduled for last April. And the rest is history. You know what happened. It had to be canceled. And so many things in our lives have had to be canceled. And our lives have all changed in so many ways. I believe now more than ever, we need additional tools for our toolkits to assist us in dealing with our new levels of stress and anxiety that we're faced with, it seems like, on a daily basis. So my sincere hope is that tonight's program will teach you a very simple yet valuable technique that can easily be used in helping you to deal with some of this stress. I am so grateful that Nick has agreed to do this program because I personally and professionally know how useful tapping is and can be. I've been fortunate to see tapping in action over the years, and I've seen how it's helped so many people. Nick Ortner is a New York Times bestselling author and the CEO of the Tapping Solution, a company with a mission to bring into the mainstream a simple, effective, natural healing method known as the Emotional Freedom Technique, or EFT, or what it's commonly become to be known as tapping. Tapping is a healing modality that combines ancient Chinese acupressure and modern psychology. Tapping has been used to overcome chronic back pain, fibromyalgia, insomnia, devastating grief, and PTSD from war, genocide, and other traumatic events. In fact, Nick supported the community of Newtown, Connecticut after the tragic shootings at Sandy Hook Elementary School, including some of our first responders and residents. Nick's goal is to empower people to create healthy, abundant, and stress-free lives through his books, films, CDs, online events, and speaking engagements attended by participants from all over the world. To learn more about Nick and all of his prolific work, please check out his website, thetappingsolution.com. The URL can be found in the chat. Just put any questions you might have for Nick in the chat, and Nick will address as many questions as he can towards the end of the program. So now I just invite you to sit back, relax, take a nice deep breath. Try to maintain an open mind and just be open to the possibilities. And here's Nick. Thank you.
Peggy, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for having me. Oh, I'm so moved by this experience, by being together in however we are now. Certainly, this last year has been a tough one, and that is a major understatement, especially speaking to all of you on the front lines, doing incredible work over the last year. And potentially we can find some promise, some solace in the last year and the things that have changed and the opportunities. Maybe some of you wouldn't have been able to attend this session in person, and now you can watch the recording. I know that there's little bits and pieces of our lives where we say, okay, maybe that was something better or different or new as we look to navigate these waters. And my mission for you today, my intention for our time together today is to teach you how to use this technique and really to give you an experience of the technique, because to me, that's what is most exciting about tapping. It's not something that you have to try for a month, that you have to commit to some sort of diet or exercise program, that you have to decide, that you're going to have this radical life change, try this tapping thing. It's not a religion or a way of being. It is a technique that works with our bodies. It's a technique that has been scientifically validated and researched and continues to be so more every day. And I'll talk about some of that. And it's a technique that you can experience for yourself. You can say, I feel better now than I did 10 minutes ago. Something has shifted in my mind. I have released something that I didn't even know I was holding on to. We were talking with this wonderful group who brought me here before this Zoom meeting started. And I asked, tell me a little bit about what this audience has gone through. I mean, I certainly know it. We've been working a lot with nurses and doctors and frontline workers over the last year. But, just tell me what you see happening. And one of the comments was, it's been such a whirlwind of a year, right? And you guys were on the front lines immediately. And you've been go nonstop, trying to fix problems, trying to help people, trying to solve your lives at the same time, trying to deal with kids at home and elderly parents that you can't see, and navigating all these things. And sometimes you go so fast that you don't even realize what it is that you're feeling, what kind of stress you're holding on to, what it's actually doing to your bodies. So what we're going to do today is take a moment to unpack some of that. And I know that probably sounds scary at first. It's like, no, I'm not ready to unpack the last year. I don't want to go there. What's so powerful about this technique, what drew me to it initially, is that we can process things that we've held on to. We can release pain from our body. We can release anxiety and stress and PTSD. And certainly sometimes we feel emotions and we unpack these things, but we can go there without living there. We can go there with the intention to release it. So I'll hear from a lot of therapists who have brought tapping into their practice, psychologists, psychiatrists from around the world. And they'll say things like, I don't know how I practiced before this, because we would just talk about things for a decade and there was people I just couldn't get anywhere with. Now I'm taking that base of experience, the wonderful foundation, and I'm applying this practice on top of it. And this is where I'm seeing incredible results. Big promises, I know, but I think you're going to have that experience today to validate it for yourself. So let's back it up a little bit. Someone just saw the link and they jumped on and they have no idea what tapping is. They're slightly surprised. They thought this was the evening's entertainment. It was going to be some sort of tap dancing show. And now there's just some dude in some place and he's talking about tapping to change their lives. Let's back it up and say, find out what we're actually talking about. So tapping, EFT, as Peggy introduced, we call it tapping because we are literally physically tapping on these endpoints of meridians of our body while saying certain statements, while focusing on the stress, the anxiety, the trauma, the thing that we want to release from our lives. Tapping was first discovered, for lack of a better name for it, in 1980 by Dr. Roger Callahan. And it's really interesting story, because people always say, like, how did this happen? Like, who decided to start tapping their face and saying things? Dr. Callahan was a traditional psychotherapist, and he had one client in particular by the name of Mary who had a terrible water phobia. And by terrible, I mean drinking water stressed her out. Forget swimming, forget looking at the ocean. It was just showers were stressful. So think about what happened there. If you had a phobia before, you know what I'm talking about. It could be as simple and debilitating as fear of heights, or it can be something strange like water phobia. Her brain would see water in whatever shape or form, and her brain would decide this is dangerous, right? Her brain would activate that fight or flight response. This is dangerous. Something is dangerous about this. If you have a fear of public speaking, what's happening there? You go get in front of an audience, and your brain says, this is dangerous, right? I'm sure there's plenty of people watching passively, and they are very happy to take this information in, and they're not the ones presenting, because the experience I'm having right now, for them, would be dangerous in some way. It would be scary. I wish I could have a show of hands. I know you can do it at home. Raise your hand if you're scared of public speaking, or if you just don't feel good about it. Peggy raises her hand, who gave me a lovely introduction. So Peggy, during that introduction, tell me if I'm wrong, but maybe felt a little anxiety, a little nervousness, a little bit like, I don't want to do this. I'm doing it because I wanted to make this happen, but I don't want to do this. Somewhere in Peggy's brain, somewhere in Mary's brain with the water phobia, somewhere in the past, often the brain has encoded this experience is a dangerous one. This activates my fight or flight response. This is a stressful situation. So Roger was working with Mary, and like I said, he was a traditional psychotherapist. So he did cognitive behavioral therapy and he did exposure therapy. Hey, let's look at the water and let's talk about it. Let's try to uncover, where did this phobia start? Did you have a near drowning incident, for example, and that coded your body to be scared of water? And they've been working together for about a year and a half with no results. And the sessions themselves were so stressful because it was the exposure, the talking about it, the thinking about it, that Mary would leave with migraine headaches from the session. Right? One day, they were sitting at his home office by the pool looking at the water, and Roger said, hey, when you look at this water, tell me what you feel in your body. Now, it's something that we don't often think about in our very brain-based, Western mode of thinking. Well, what do you feel in your body? We have these bodies, you're looking at this water. And she said, I have all these butterflies in my stomach. I just feel so queasy looking at the water. Roger, Dr. Callahan, happened to have been studying about the meridian system in the body, these channels of energy in the body that are connected to different systems. And he had read that the stomach meridian ends underneath the eye. So on a whim, on an inspiration, he said, well, you know what, let's look at the water and let's do this for a little while. Let's tap underneath the eye, stimulating that acupuncture point, that acupressure point, and see what happens. And like that, the water phobia was gone. Mary said, the feeling in my stomach is gone. I can walk up to the water. I want to go in the water. I'm ready. Like, it was just gone like that. Now, everything in tapping isn't a 1-minute miracle, but it established for Roger the foundation of something happened here that was new or different. Something happened here that in my decades and his decades of clinical experience, he had not seen happen. So he proceeded to identify other major endpoints of meridians and create a technique called TFT, thought field therapy, where depending on what you were experiencing, if you had anger, you would do a certain sequence. If you had anxiety, a different one. One of his students, Gary Craig, developed EFT. That's the format that I use today, which is basically, instead of these complicated algorithms, different things for different stuff, let's hit all these major endpoints every time. You'll see when we go through the process, it's really simple. Major endpoints of meridians, let's repeat it. And that's where now 40 years later, 41 years later, we have landed in this process of hitting these major endpoints of meridians while focusing on the stress or anxiety. The growth in the last 40 years of this technique has been really a lot of anecdotal stories, people having an experience. That's what started for me in 2003. I found it, I had an experience, I got passionate about it, I made a documentary, then I wrote books, just purely on passion. And that's important and wonderful, and it's helped spread it far and wide. What's really exciting to me is the last decade has brought the hard science and research that we need in order to validate what's happening. Because it's one thing to have a good story, but we need to bring skeptics on board. We need to bring institutions on board. And in order to do that, we need something that definitively proves what's happening. There's 200 plus studies, but some of them, a few stand out to me, and I want to share one because it's exciting before you have the experience to know what's happening in your body. This was actually a replication study, and for those of you, who are into science, who are into studies, you'll know that a replication study is looking to replicate a previous study. So it was a previous positive study. A different group said, hey, let's try to replicate it. And replication is actually an issue in science, and it's an issue in research because someone will put out a study, it's usually a small data set, it's 15 people, and they found an aversion to chocolate if they walk backwards 3 times a day, these weird studies, right? And then someone else goes to replicate it, and oh, no, that we didn't get that result at all. So it's important to go, let's replicate these data sets with a different group of people. And this was a cortisol study. So salivary cortisol, spit into a tube. If we all spit into a tube right now, you could send it off to the lab and we could measure how much cortisol. It's an important marker of stress. When you're really stressed, your salivary cortisol is up. You might have even done some of these tests if you see a functional medicine practitioner where you spit in a tube all day and they measure your cortisol throughout the day to see like, hey, are you having the proper cortisol response? So salivary cortisol, 3 groups. We have our tapping group who did an hour of group tapping, so sort of what we're doing here today. Then you had the psychoeducation group who learned about stress relief, who talked about the mechanisms of the body, different things. And then you had the control group who just read magazines for an hour. Like I said, before and after, into the tube. The tapping group saw a 42% decrease in cortisol in an hour. That is a massive drop. I mean, it's such a stunning drop that the people doing the assays, the people doing, they're going, wait, how did you know? Is this the time frame? Right? Because that is a massive drop in cortisol in an hour. The psychoeducation group saw a 19% decrease in cortisol. And I thought it's nice to have that group as an extra control to go, you know what, when you sit and you learn things for an hour and you relax and you learn about how the brain works, you are naturally going to drop that cortisol. So it's like, there's that 19%. Now we take it to the limit, 42%, when we actually add this physical component in our bodies. And then that poor control group, and I hope that they taught them tapping at some point because it's so sad for them. They read magazines for an hour. They saw a 2% increase in cortisol in that hour. So they became more stressed just reading magazines. I joke that I want to replicate that study with Facebook or Instagram or some sort of social media as the control group. Like, let's see what happens to the cortisol there. Or how about just at work? Get a couple work emails and then see how that control group does. Salivary cortisol showing a definitive drop in this important biomarker in this hour of tapping. Beyond that, everything from anxiety to depression. And you know what? I'll paste it right now that we're talking about science and research. We have a PDF that you might find helpful. If you want to go deep into this, give me 1 second. I'm just going to paste it in the chat. In this PDF, it's 40 or so pages, outlines a lot of the major studies and then breaks out some of the studies and some of the results that are there. So if you want to go deep there, it's available for you. Now we have the history and science. We know where it came from. We know we're not tap dancing. We're doing this other thing. We have a little bit of a solid ground for research to say, oh, at least it doesn't see a link. I think I did to all, let me see. Let me do all panelists. Give me 1 second. I'll paste it again. Oh, attendees. Okay, here it comes. Tell me if you see that. We have the background. We have the foundation. What's most important for me? Let's have an experience. All right, good. It went through. So if it's safe to do so, hopefully you're not driving. Let's do some tapping. Let's begin by closing our eyes and taking a gentle breath in. And take a moment to just thank yourself for showing up here. Whether you're watching it live or in a replay the next day or a month later or a year later, you made this decision that you want to let go of some things. You want to find some stress relief. You didn't jump on social media. You didn't get distracted by other things. And I know that you had things that you had to put to the side in order to do this. So just thank yourself for making that decision of self-care, of self-love, of self-compassion. And now let's tune in to what we're feeling and what's going on in our lives. With tapping, we actually begin by focusing on the negative. So I mentioned that fight or flight response. Latest research shows that when we tap, we send a calming signal to the amygdala. We calm that fight or flight response. But in order to calm it, we want to acknowledge it. So this isn't just positive thinking. We say, what am I anxious about? What am I stressed about? What pain am I feeling in my body? So take a moment now and ask yourself, what is stressing me out the most right now? And see if you can get specific about one thing. You might have gotten an email this morning that you just haven't been able to stop thinking about all day. You might have an upcoming presentation that's stressing you out. You might be feeling something in your body. I mentioned pain. I've seen unbelievable results with tapping and pain relief as we send these calming signals, as we relax the muscles, as we open the body up for healing. So if you're feeling physical pain right now, you can focus on that. Are you angry about something? Are you overwhelmed? Are you overworked? Just tune in. And then notice how much just general tension you're holding on to in your body. Are your shoulders hunched up? You've got stress and tension in your shoulders. Just pay attention to your body. And as you tune into that one thing, the anxiety, the anger, the pain, the frustration, that one emotion, or the event that happened, the email that you got, give it a number on a scale of 0 to 10. So 10 would be, I'm really angry about this. I can't stop thinking about it. I'm anxious. I'm stressed. I'm sad. I'm grieving. I'm in a lot of pain. Give it a number, 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever comes up for you. Now you can gently open your eyes. And if you're willing to share in the chat, go ahead and pop your number. And if you're willing to share what you're feeling, anxiety at a 7, anger at an 8, my back hurts, it's a 4. Just comment below. Won't hold it against you. You can just type generally, what's your number? What was your experience? And where are you at? So we have Diana, grief at a 9. Sorry you're feeling that, Diana. Jay has a headache at a 6. All right, let's see if we can move that number. Ebony, neck pain at a 5. Gina, overwhelm at a 4. Lourdes is at a 5. So we've got some 5s and 6s and 9s. Anxious around a 6 for Sean. Maria's anxiety and shaking at a 10. All right, so a lot happening there. Let's see if we can bring that down. Celia is anniversary of hospitalization for COVID at a 9. So I'm sure she's had a tough year. Neuropathy in the leg at a 6. Anxiety 7.5. So all the things that we are carrying. All right, let's tap together. Follow along with me. We start by tapping on the side of the hand. It's called the karate chop point. You can use whatever hand feels comfortable for you. And then repeat after me, either in your mind or out loud. So tapping on the side of the hand. Even though I have all this stress in my body, I choose to relax and feel safe now. And we're going to be still on the side of the hand. Even though parts of me are so overwhelmed, I choose to relax now. And one more time on the side of the hand. Even though I'm holding on to this, it feels hard to let it go. I'm open to releasing it now. Now we'll tap through the points. I'll describe them and show them to you the first time, and then you'll get them really quickly. First point is the eyebrow point. So it's inside of the eyebrow where the hair ends and it meets the nose. You can do one side, the other side, or both sides. The meridians run down both sides of the body. And just tap gently. Don't worry about getting it perfect. You want to be in that area. And as you tap, I want you to just think about that stressful issue. What are you anxious about? Notice the pain in your body. Be present to it. Again, we are looking to actually activate it, to have that part of our brain fire in order to send this calming signal. And we move to the side of the eye. It's not at the temple, right on the bone. Again, one side or both sides, tapping gently. And I know it's a lot to track when you're figuring it out. Once we go through the points a couple times, you'll get it, and then you can focus in on what you're working on. So again, putting your attention back on the stress, the anxiety, the pain, the thing that is most pressing for you. Kathy wrote volume of work 7. So you just think about all the work you have. Now under the eye, right on the bone, think the thoughts that you would normally think. When you get stressed, what do you think? I have so much to do. I'm never going to get through it. I'm anxious about this presentation. Think those thoughts now. Under the nose, right under the nose. If you're in pain, just be present to that pain. How do you feel about that pain? Are you angry that you've had it for so long? Why won't it heal? Why won't that pain go away? Under the mouth, it's above the chin, below the lip, right in that crease there. Tapping gently, tuning back into that overwhelm, the neck pain, the headache, the grief. Thinking those thoughts. Next point is the collarbone point. Just feel for the 2 little bones of the collarbone. You can go right below it, and you tap with 10 fingers of both hands. Perfect. You're doing great. Tuning back in. What am I anxious about? What am I stressed about? How much have I been carrying over the last year? What would it take to let it go? Underneath the arm, I know it's hard to see me here, but it's 3 inches underneath the armpit, right on the bra line for women, either side of the body, and it's usually easy to just do one side. Tapping gently, tuning into these feelings, these thoughts, being present. The last point, right at the top of the head. Tapping gently, tuning in. And we'll do a couple more rounds together. We'll skip right to the eyebrow. So we did the karate chop point, which sets it up. Now we move right back to the eyebrow and just stay on the eyebrow for a moment. Now you know it. You can focus back in on that anxiety, the stress, the pain. Notice your body, just how much you've been holding on to. Side of the eye. Is it safe to let some of it go? Is it safe to relax? If not, why? Oh, I can't relax. There's no time to relax. I can't let go. I've got to stay on high alert. This is what I do. What thoughts do you think? Under the eye. I know for many of you on the front lines, you have to be in that fight or flight response. If you're working the ER, you need to respond. The question is, can you turn it off now? Can you respond appropriately when needed? And then can you give your body that moment to let go? Under the nose. Tuning back in, thinking those thoughts. What's this last week been like? What's this last day been like? What has been stressing you out? What would it take for you to release some of that stress? Tuning in, under the mouth. Gently breathing. And think those thoughts again. And you might notice that at first, the anxiety was there and it was present, and now you're thinking the thoughts again, and it's a little harder to hold on to it, or the anger seems to be fading away. Your body begins to relax. It's open to the possibility of letting go. Collarbone. Who would you be if you release the stress? Is that possible for you? Listen to what your brain says. No right or wrong. Just notice it and tap, sending that calming signal. Underneath the arm, thinking those thoughts, noticing that stress, letting it go. Top of the head. thinking those thoughts, noticing that stress, letting it go. Now we'll do one more round back to the eyebrow. Repeat after me, either in your mind or out loud. It's safe to relax. Side of the eye. Maybe I can let this go. Under the eye. What if I could let this go? Under the nose. What if I could feel safe in my body? Under the mouth. Letting go. Collarbone. Feeling safe. Underneath the arm. All is well. Top of the head. I am well. Now you can gently stop tapping. Take a breath in and let it go. Now we tune back in. So we did 3 quick rounds there, very general because I don't know what it is that you're working on at home, but now check in on your original number. So your anxiety was a 7. Is it a 6, a 5, or a 4? Were you angry about something at a 10 and now that's gone and you're sad about something? Where's the pain? Go ahead and comment in the chat. Let me know if you can do both numbers, it'd be great. You know, was it a 7? Now I'm at a 3 and what it was. Lourdes is at a 1. I know she was at a 5, I think. And she feels so much relief. So comment below. I mean, look at this. Ebony, neck pain before was a 5 and now it's a 1. Okay, so can we just stop and pause there? Because I'm blown away. My second book was on tapping for pain relief because it goes, well, she has neck pain. There's something wrong with her neck, clearly. And there might be something wrong. And that's why medical doctors are amazing and nurses are amazing. And we need to check it out and we need to do the work. The question becomes, when we do the work, when we identify what happened and the pain is still there, what's going on? And the body isn't healing, what's going on? Can we come together to do that work? Oh, there's something going on in the neck and we fixed it. And now we're going to augment this healing. There's a study that should have happened a year ago now, but COVID has delayed it by a year at Duke Hospital. And they are doing a pre and post-op pain study because I don't need to tell you, it's like if we can reduce pain, if we can amplify healing, even if it's by 20%, it's an absolute game changer, not only in our experiences, the patient experience, the nurse's experience, the hospital experiences. So hopefully we'll have some data on that soon. We have in the app a pre and post-op tapping meditation for that. So we have Debbie was a 7.5 and now is a 2. So leg neuropathy, again, Paula, from a 6 to a 3. Like that is a stunning drop, a 50% drop. At first, my stress for the test was at a 6, and now I'd say it's at a 2. So Sean, I think he had a test coming up. Think about that application too. You're going into a test with a 6 stress and probably amplifies once you get to the test. What's going to happen? What happens when we're stressed? The blood flows away from our brains into our arms and legs. We go into fight or flight response. How are we supposed to perform and answer questions that require our brain if we're stressed out? What happens if we can begin to turn that off? What happens if we go from a 6 to a 2 and bring those functions back so we can actually think clearly? I know there's so many people. I remember friends from high school who were brilliant and they were terrible test takers. And it affected who they were. It affected their opportunities. It affected their college prospects, affected their career prospects, if we're going to go down that line, because they were stressed from that experience. Imagine the possibilities when his brain is going to work that much better. Lord said, the only thing I know is I feel so relaxed. That is what we're looking for. Let's see. Rosa, the headache is gone. Was it a 5 prior? Right? And we know this. And, the medical establishment knows this. Obviously, the hospital knows this. That's why we're bringing in quote unquote alternative therapies. I don't know why we have to make that distinction between alternative and not alternative, because the reality is that we are all working together for an outcome. And if we say, we want a patient to be healthier, what do we need to do to make that happen? Katie had stress, was at a 10, now it's a 2. Maria, 10 to a 5. Carmela, 8 to a 3. And my friends, we did 3 rounds of tapping, maybe 10 minutes. I didn't know what it was you were working on, so very general language, and look at the shift that you created in yourself. That to me is one of the most exciting things about tapping, that we have this power within, that we always feel like, well, if I'm anxious, it's because something is happening in the world out there to make me anxious. If I'm angry, it's because someone said something. I have a right to be angry. And certainly these emotions serve us at various times. It's not, oh, never be angry. Oh, never feel righteous indignation. Oh, never stand up for what you believe in or tell someone that you disagree. The question is, can we experience these emotions, have them serve us, get the clarity to do what we want to do, to react in appropriate ways, to take appropriate decisions and make appropriate decisions, and then can we let it go so we don't bring the work home, so we don't affect our kids because we had such a brutal day at work. And it's understandable that you carry it home and that you're burnt out and that it all makes sense. But what if we could just find that pause, that 5 or 10 minutes to release some of that stress? What if we began to imagine within ourselves and within the communities we work with and the people we work with, that we don't have to be stressed in order to be productive, that we don't have to be stressed in order to be valuable. I certainly see it where we have this, it's like you ask people like, oh, how are you doing? Oh, busy, 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 busy as can be. So much going on. You know me, just can barely keep up. And it's often true. So I'm not minimizing the reality of the fact here, but is it possible that we can aim for something different? Oh, how are you? You know what? I'm doing really well. I have a lot on my plate, but I'm managing it beautifully. Like I have a clarity about what I'm doing that I've never had before. I'm just loving work. And certainly yesterday's meeting was challenging, but what I went home and I had an amazing time with my kids or my husband because I just let it all go. Can we begin to imagine those conversations with each other? Can we begin to imagine a culture that doesn't reward misery and sweating and conflict? So really, the tapping technique is one that goes beyond just how quickly we can change our bodies. It opens up the doors for so much more. It opens up the doors for a different conversation. Sound good? Do you guys want to have those experiences in your life? Would you guys like to have a workplace that has that culture within it? I think it's possible. I think we're getting there. I think the fact that you have shown up here, that you have taken the time to do this means that it's happening. We are on our way. I want to share a couple more things now, and then I'll take some questions for the last 20 minutes because I'm sure there's many of them. But over the last year, once the pandemic hit, clearly we recognized the need, as everyone did around the world, who could pitch in some way, who could help in some way. And our way was to create specific coronavirus anxiety relief meditations. So we created a whole collection that's free in the app. There's 20 or so in there, in our tapping solution app. I haven't talked about our app yet. It's a free app download, iOS or Android. And we created a collection in there specifically to help as many people as possible, including coronavirus anxiety for kids. We have a before a shift and after a shift for healthcare workers. We heard from them. They said, I'm in the thick of it. I need something to prepare myself for what I'm going into because I know what it's going to be, and I need something to release the day. So that's there. That collection has remained free for a year. And beyond that, we have made, so the way the app works, the way we're able to make it work, it's a free download. Right now, there's 40 or so free tapping meditations, and then people can upgrade for 300 plus other meditations. So that's how we're able to do what we do and run the company. Over the last year, we've made the premium membership free for healthcare workers, first responders, teachers, mental health therapists. Initially, we made it for 6 months. We thought that would be plenty of time. and it wasn't. So we have extended it. It's now been a year of free membership. So we obviously have not been taking it away from anyone. And that is still available. So I'm going to pop this link in here right now, and you will see this should take you, if all goes well, to a page where you fill out the form, you say what you're doing. Obviously, we need some sort of vetting so it doesn't go out, free memberships for everyone in the world. But you can fill out the form there, and that will give you a 6-month free membership in the full app. So enjoy that. Share that with your colleagues, please. And also, if you had a good experience here today, make sure to tell people about it. I know the emails are going to go out on it, but share it with a friend, share it with your people you're working with, because the more buy-in we can get from everyone, the easier it is to make these things a reality. So all that being said, let's take a couple of questions. I can see some in the chat, and I know we'll have some help doing questions. And if I see some, I'll grab them. If not, we'll figure out how to do it. But go ahead and let me know questions about your experience, about tapping, whatever it is that you want to ask about. So we'll give it a second. We always got a little bit of delay. I'll take a sip of water. I can't imagine there's no questions. If there's no questions, we'll make them up. Here we go. Barb says, how can I use this to help me sleep better? Barb, you will be happy to know inside the app, there's specific tapping for sleep meditations. So we have Quiet My Racing Mind, which is just a great one to just shut things down. We have a bunch of sleep programming ones where you relax your body, and then you set an intention for what you want to do. So there's one, wake up happy. There's our jaw relaxation one. So it's like relax before bed. Some people struggling with TMJ, teeth grinding at night, set that intention to relax the jaw. So there's a whole bunch in there. Gina says, can we do another round? Yeah, maybe we'll take some questions and we'll wrap up with a positive round of tapping to send you on your way. Ebony says, is this technique suitable for young children? It is. Let me see if I can grab this quickly. We have a kid's book called Gorilla Thumps and Bear Hugs that my brother Alex wrote. It's really cute. There's, animals for all the points, which I always thought was kind of a fun, neat idea for kids to learn it. I also find some adults that struggle with the points, like learning it this way. So that's available on Amazon, wherever you get books. And then there's also kids meditations in the app. So we have free ones on coronavirus anxiety. There's getting ready for virtual school. So really, really effective. I have a daughter who's about to turn 6, and we do tapping before bed at night. That's about the age 5 or 6 where you'll start making those connections. I've seen people use it with younger kids for sure, but that's where they'll have an easier time learning it. Gina says, I have terrible night sweats. Will this help? I don't know, Gina, but you know what? Give it a shot, right? So I know it's going to help you sleep better. I know you're going to relax before bed, and maybe there's something happening there. So there's no downside to trying it. Amanda says, is there a method that you can do when this is needed, but you are in a large group of people? Yeah, so you're like on the floor of the hospital and you're stressed out and you're like, this floor isn't tapping yet. I don't want anyone to see me tapping. I get it. So a couple things. Bathrooms are always wonderful. Close the stall. Do a couple rounds of tapping there. You can get away with doing this. Like, you don't always have to do the whole process every time. So if you want to do this, people will just think you're fidgeting. I mean, no one notices anything, right? You can even tap on a point like this. You can be doing this in a meeting. I mean, now your superiors might know if you do this in a meeting that what they're saying is stressing you out. So let's be careful. But you can do a couple of the points just to create that relaxation. But usually, finding a quiet space is the way to go. Carmel says, how does tapping actually affect physical pain that is coming from a medical condition? Very big, very important question. So we don't have all the answers here, but I think we're getting to the point where most pain doctors would tell you that pain is not only where you're experiencing, but it's really originating in the brain. Right? Like, that's where we are getting to with that. Meaning, how is it that someone can, I could break this bone And then I'd go to wonderful Danbury Hospital, it's my closest hospital, and they would fix it all up for me. And it would probably hurt for a little while. And maybe I decide to take some pain meds because it hurts terribly. And I go through that process, and then it mends, and then it doesn't hurt again. And then someone else has a different experience and it continues to hurt. The healing doesn't happen. And really the question we're asking ourselves here is, what's going on with chronic pain? What's going on when we've been unable to identify a specific medical condition or the healing isn't happening? And I think that's where stress, overwhelm, anxiety, the burden that we put on our bodies is affecting that healing. So at the most basic level, the more you can relax. And I don't think, this isn't controversial stuff. This isn't woo-woo stuff. This isn't alternative. If you relax more after a surgery, if you're more relaxed, you're going to have better outcomes. End of story. Like there's no debate about this. Like if you are relaxed before and after surgery, you're going to have better outcomes. I mean, I don't know a single doctor who would argue that. The percentage could be argued. Will it make a big difference or not? I think we want to stack everything in our favor. So if you had a headache and now you tapped and it's gone, well, sounds like that headache was somewhat related to stress, to physical things going on, to the way you just been running around all day. I hope that answered that question. Kieran, how do we find the right words to say while tapping? Great question. It's one of the main reasons why we released the Tapping Solution app 2 years ago. It's now been downloaded almost 1 million times. We just crossed 5 million completed sessions in the app. So, for your other skeptics, we have 0 to 10 data points on every single session in the app. So we have 5 million sessions. As an example, one meditation has been completed almost 500,000 times, showing a 42% decrease in anxiety in 11 minutes. That's a data set that you don't get anywhere, right? This is a massive data set. We actually had a paper published. You'll see it in that PDF on the app, showing a statistically significant reduction in stress and anxiety. We know it, we experienced it, but now we have this huge data set. So how do we find the right words? That's why we created the app, because people not only struggle with the language for specific things, the other challenge is when you're stressed, when you're in the thick of what's going on. So like test anxiety. Okay, I'm anxious about this. I'm stressed out. The blood's flowing away from my brain into my arms and legs. Okay, I heard about this tapping thing. Let me do it. What do I say? It's like you're not thinking clearly. You're stressed. You're overwhelmed. It's going to be even harder to pull that off. So that's where a guiding voice. That's what's available in the app. That's where a therapist. There's psychologists, psychiatrists, social workers, amazing people on the front lines working one-on-one with people who bring tapping into their practice. If you're dealing with PTSD, if you're dealing with terrible trauma, if when you even think about going there emotionally, you get stressed and overwhelmed, go reach out to a professional. Like go get someone to work with who can guide you through the process. And to me, that's the beauty about this technique. It's like this can slide into whatever it is that you're doing. This isn't, oh, I do cognitive behavioral therapy, that means I don't do tapping. The number of therapists who say, I use this foundation, this incredible foundation of CBT, and when I apply this new breakthrough on top of it, I get this exponential result. Like that's how we combine things. That's how we get to the next level of healing, the next level of results for people. How does tapping specifically help with grief? Deborah, thank you for that question. It's an important question. It's a profound question. It's a difficult question. So you heard in the beginning, in my intro, that I live in Sandy Hook. I live in Newtown. So right now I'm coming to you from Newtown. I grew up in Brookfield. I lived in New York City for a couple of years and California for a couple of years, and I found my way back home. So this is home for me. And certainly, like all of you, when that horrible massacre happened in 2012, I was shocked, devastated. You go, what do you mean it's here? Like this happens elsewhere. This happens on television. This doesn't happen in this beautiful, peaceful community. So certainly knew that I had to do something about that, whatever part I could play to help, just like we've done the last year with the pandemic. And it was shortly afterwards, it was Tuesday after the shooting on a Friday. So, I mean, several days later, that I found myself in the house of Scarlett Lewis. Now, some of you may know Scarlett because she's so incredible. She lost her son, Jesse, in the shooting. She wrote a beautiful book called Nurturing Healing Love. She started the Jesse Lewis Choose Love Foundation. So I was in her home because we put out there that we were helping. She was either on my list or knew someone who was, and I showed up at her house to help. And certainly I didn't walk in with the expectation like, okay, so this horrible thing, the most unimaginably horrible thing happened on Friday. Let's tap on it to clear it away. Doesn't work that way. But I asked her that what she was feeling, and she talked about all this anger she was experiencing. And it actually, what was interesting about that experience is that she was feeling anger about a different event. So her body, understandably, was so overwhelmed by this depth of grief and tragedy that was unimaginable that she was just having a hard time processing anything. So we started right where she opened up. We started tapping on this anger about this other issue. In the hour we spent together, did we resolve her grief? Of course not. Did we fix anything about what happened? No. But we reduced some of the stress, some of the anger, some of the burden on her body. We gave her a tool, and she took up the tool. I mean, she really, stuck with it. So when she woke up at 3 a.m, a month later, in the middle of a panic attack, and she thought to herself, okay, so she lived in Newtown, obviously in Sandy Hook. JT, her older son, who's 13 at the time, he's asleep. I'm having a panic attack. I know what they are. I have to go to the hospital now to get meds because I've been through a panic attack and I can't breathe my way out of it or think my way out of this. Can I call the ambulance, get back before JT wakes up? This is where her brain is going in the midst of this horrible experience. She had that little space in that moment to think, well, let me try this tapping thing. And she did. She tapped for 10 minutes and she fell back asleep. So when we're dealing with grief, this is a tool to help us potentially release some of the other burdens in our lives, release some of the stress, process that. And then in time, like anything else, like as grief moves and evolves, we can use it to find meaning. We can use it to let go of the emotions that are keeping us stuck, that are keeping us from processing the grief. With Scarlett again, she'll say that she was able to process the grief, to be with the grief, to allow the grief in a healthy way, where if she didn't have this tool, maybe she would have stayed in anger for a decade. And she's unbelievable in and of herself. She speaks about forgiveness in ways that are just incredible, and it's not just tapping. It's like there's something deep and wonderful about who she is to be able to speak that way. But I think it's been part of her process in that healing. So I hope that answered that question. Let's see. Lisa said, would love to use this in the ED. Maybe that was ER, or ED's another department I don't know about. Lisa, use it. Let's make this happen. Can anyone on this presentation download the app? I'm not in the front lines. Yeah, the app is free to download, and there's 40 plus emergency department. Thank you, Lisa. That makes sense. ER, yes, let's make it happen. I mean, talk about, I know you have people come in and that it's anxiety, that it's a panic attack, that it's something else going on. And if we can have an intervention that brings that down quickly and at least finds a little measure of peace, even if we took that panic attack from a 10 to a 7, that's a different individual you're working with. Now you have the opportunity to try other things, and sure makes your life a lot easier if you're dealing with a 7 panic attack as opposed to a 10 panic attack. So sorry, yes, you can download the app. It's a free download. So anyone, I know we have people from the community joining, go ahead and download the app. And wherever you go, just go to the App Store, wherever you get your apps, and just search the tapping solution. That'll be the easiest way to get it, to get you right to the app. Let's see, Aletta says, in this teaching session, we took a minute to cycle through the tapping. What is considered optimum time for the tapping experience? It's a great question. So in the app, we have everything from about 5 minutes is the shortest, some instant boosts, we call them, up to 25 minutes is our longest extended session. Most are 10 to 12 minutes, not because that's necessarily the magic time, but it does seem to be the magic time that we as busy human beings can allow in our lives and get the result that we want, and that we need. If you're working with a therapist, it might be a traditional hour-long therapy session. You won't necessarily be tapping for the whole hour, but we'll be talking about some things and then spend some time tapping. So there's no magic number, but you can do 5 minutes. It's better than nothing.
Nick, it's Peggy. Is there
Hi,
a better
Peggy.
time of day for people to tap? Someone had
Great
asked a
question, Peggy. So yeah, thank you for that. It's whatever fits into your schedule. So if you can do it first thing you wake up in the morning, because that's when you can get it done and you can give 5 or 10 minutes there, fabulous. If you're at lunch and you're like, this has been the most stressful day and I need to go in the bathroom and close the stall and tap for 10 minutes, great. The thing is to do it, and that's what matters most. Before bed is a nice spot for people because it generally deepens sleep. I actually had, I don't know if some of you might have heard about an Aura ring. It's like a Fitbit. So it's a ring that you wear that tracks your sleep, and it does REM, deep sleep. It's really accurate. It does HRV, heart rate variability. And sometimes I have the fortune, the fun to work with some celebrities. Tapping's gotten out there in a big way. And about a month ago, I was working with a well-known male actor. I always love working with males because it's usually women who are on the cusp of these cutting-edge things. So when I get a man to do it, to look at their emotional experience, it's always exciting. And we worked together. Maybe for 20 minutes one Friday afternoon. And then I said, hey, go do this sleep session at night, 10-minute sleep session. Texted him the next morning and said, how was your experience? Like, what happened? And he showed me his Aura ring data. For the previous month, he'd been getting 23 minutes of deep sleep on average, right? That night, he got 1 hour and 29 minutes of deep sleep. So 20 minutes of tapping in the afternoon, 10 minutes before bed, and an extra hour of deep sleep. And I've stayed in touch, and he keeps sending me his Aura data, and it's consistently at 1:30. And the other day he texted me, he goes, we're well beyond placebo now. Like, oh, I had a good thing, because he's getting 1:30 of deep sleep every single night. So before bed, get some extra deep sleep. Other questions, Peggy, or I'll dig around here?
someone was wondering, what's the difference between tapping and meditation?
Yeah, great question. So I think they're cousins, they're brothers, they're best friends. They certainly go together. A lot of people will use tapping before meditation. What the future I see for tapping, the reason I believe, and I meditate almost every day, so I am a fan of meditation and mindfulness. If you're anxious, if you have someone come into the emergency piece, let's find some mindfulness. I think this is a bridge to meditation. I hear time and again people say, I've tried to meditate because everyone tells me to meditate and I hate it. I sit there, my mind races, I get up more anxious than I was before, or I feel like I'm not doing it right, or I feel like I failed. Tapping can help quiet that mind, and you can go, all right, my anxiety was a 10, now it's a 5, something happened. And I think that feedback loop is so important to know something is working here.
And another question, this is a great one. Can one person tap on another person?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when my daughter was younger, and sometimes she'll still say, Daddy, you do the tapping. So, I'll tap on her. There are some therapists that do it on their clients because their clients like it that way. So, it's not the most common thing because most people don't necessarily want to be tapped by another person, but absolutely.
And then a big question, what about, what would you recommend for training for professionals that wanted to get into this a little bit more?
Yeah, for sure. We don't do any training ourselves at the Tapping Solution, but we recommend some amazing people who do it well, who train psychologists and therapists. So your best bet is to just email Nick at the Tapping Solution. So that'll actually go to our wonderful customer service team. So Nick at thetappingsolution.com, and then say, I'm looking to get trained, and they'll send you links with a couple of resources.
Okay.
All right. So I know we're running out of time, but people wanted to do someone asked to do another round of tapping. So why don't we end with that so we can feel completely relaxed and stress-free as we end our time together. All right. So we're going to do one quick round, starting on the side of the hand. Even though I've been holding on to some stress, I'm open to a new way of being. even though this past year has been so tough. And it's taken a toll on me. I'm ready for what's next. Even though I'm holding on to a lot of, I choose to let it go now. Eyebrow, what a year it's been. Side of the eye, and I'm still in the thick of it. Under the eye, but I'm open to letting go. Under the nose, to relaxing a little more. Under the mouth, to sleeping better. Collarbone, to creating more peace in my life. Under the arm, I've got this. Top of the head, letting go now. Gentle breath in and let it go. And there we have it. We didn't measure. We don't always have to. Quick round. And that you can do that for yourself as well. Quick round, letting go. And we are off. Thank you everyone for coming, for doing the tapping with me, for being brave, for being courageous. Share it with your friends and family. Certainly this link will be shared again so you can share it with colleagues. And then the app is available to anyone. So your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, your crazy cousin, let them know that there's this tool that you can use to relieve stress, to relieve anxiety, to move through pain, and to live a better life.
Oh, Nick,
Thanks,
thank
everyone.
you. So everybody, why not download the information and just start practicing? You have nothing to lose and everything to gain. And thank you all so much for joining us. Good night.
And I'm holding a vision. I know some people said, we need this in the emergency department, other places. I'm holding a vision for making that happen. So if you are a stakeholder, if you're involved, if if you're a decision maker, or you can get this places, let's do this, be a leader in the nation. I mean, look, you got me here. I'm right next door. We have this tool. Let's make it part of something special and change the outcome for people and help people even more. Thank you, everyone. God bless. Bye-bye.